Hello to all. Our names are Shamaya, Eppinger, and Bre'Ana Gates. We have conducted our literature review on the topic of teen pregnancy in the Hispanic culture. The articles that we have chosen to provide in this presentation are The Ethnic Differences in Adolescents' Mental Distress, Social Stress, and Resources by Husung Chow, Janet C. Mingler, and Robert E. Roberts. The second article that we have chosen is Parenting Stress, Social Support, and Depression for Ethnic Minority Adolescent Mothers. Impact on Child Development by Cindy Hong, Jessica Costines, Joy Kaufman, Carmen Ayala. The first article that I will talk about is The Ethnic Differences in Adolescents' Mental Distress, Social Stress, and Resources. For the intro of this article, it starts off by stating that it is limited data on ethnic group differences among young adolescents that exists regarding the prevalence of mental distress, social stress, and resources. The researchers conducted a cross-sectional study to examine ethnic differences among African, European, Hispanic, and Asian American adolescents in mental distress, social stress, and resources. This study was designed to examine differences among 4 ethnic groups of adolescents on 3 indicators. One being mental distress, which includes depression, somatic symptoms, and suicide ideation. The second in social stress, that follows general social stress, process-oriented stress, and social cultural stress. Last but not least, resources, which includes family relationships, coping, and self-esteem. The hypothesis for this study is compared to the dominant majority group in America, which are European Americans. Ethnic minority adolescents, particularly Hispanic Americans and Asian Americans, are expected to experience higher levels of social stress due to a coloration process as well as ethnic minority status. Also, adolescents from each ethnic group will have a different amount of resources depending on their ethnicity. Finally, ethnic minority adolescents will be at a higher risk for mental distress than European Americans. Next, we will cover the methods and the study itself. The study was conducted at the University of Texas Health Science Committee for the Protection of Human Subjects. This study was conducted in 3 middle schools, grades 6th through 8th, with ethnically diverse student bodies. All middle school students who returned a signed parental consent form were invited to participate in the study. Different types of social stress were measured using social, attitudinal, familial, and environmental scale for children. This scale is a modification of the 24-item SAFE stress scale, which was constructed to assess the multidimensional aspects of stress. The main findings of the study are among 4 ethnic groups of ethnic minority adolescents. Asian Americans had significantly higher levels of social stress, family conflicts, and lower levels of self-esteem than European Americans. Without the influence of age, gender, and socioeconomic statuses, Hispanic Americans had the lowest level of self-esteem among 3 ethnic groups. African Americans show lack of coping skills. All ethnic minority adolescents also reported difficulties in family relationships. The current study also identified ethnic minority adolescents as vulnerable for mental distress. Ethnic minority adolescents have already shown evidence of increased risk of somatic symptoms, depression, and suicide ideation, and require additional research and attention from healthcare providers. The present study strongly reflects national efforts to overcome ethnic disparities in health within this decade. The second article that we chose to discuss is titled Parenting Stress, Social Support, and depression for ethnic minority adolescent mothers, the impact on child development. This article focuses on the influencing factors that parental stress, social support, and depression have on child development of the adolescent mothers studied. The target group for this study is minority pregnant adolescents. The introduction indicates that the rates of teenage pregnancies are higher for African American and Latina adolescents compared to their Caucasian peers. The research presented focuses on varying mechanisms through which maternal mental health factors influence child development and outcome for these adolescents and their children. The need for this research is necessary as limited research on minority populations is few in this particular area. The present study examined the influence of adolescent mothers' parenting stress and perceived social support on maternal depression at baseline of 6 months after birth, and its impact on infant development 1 year later or 18 months after birth was also examined. The participants that were included were 180 adolescent mothers of African American or Latino Hispanic descent. Of the 180 adolescent mothers, 73 were African American and 107 were Hispanics. The influencing factors examined within the study were parenting stress, child development, maternal depression, and perceived social support. The present study was measured by the Parenting Stress Index short form, a 36-item measure used to determine the level of stress associated with parenting. The participants reported their level of agreement on a Likert scale of 1 to 5, with higher scores indicating more stress. The results suggest that higher levels of parenting stress and less perceived social support were associated with higher levels of depression in the adolescent mothers at baseline. Higher levels of maternal depression were also associated with more developmental delays in infants 1 year post-baseline. Without the influence of age, gender, and socioeconomic status, Hispanic Americans had the lowest level of self-esteem among the 3 ethnic groups, and African Americans showed lack of coping skills. Ethnic minority adolescents also reported difficulties in family relationships. There are some limitations in the articles as well. Social support was reported by the adolescent mothers based on their perception of the support they received, which may differ from the actual level of support provided by family and other supporting systems. Also, an adolescent who does not feel emotionally supported by her parents may rate parental support as low, regardless of parental financial or child rearing supporting methods. This concludes our article presentations. The references and the PDFs that we use for this presentation are provided below. Thank you for your time.